Bonjour. Listen, I don't speak French. I'm sorry. So I'm going to speak English. Hopefully everything will be okay. If you have any questions afterwards, feel free to ask. We're going to talk today about objectives and key results. And I believe that this is a unique opportunity for designers to continue to push forward advocacy for the customer using another tool. So we're going to talk about it in a much broader context than design, but I believe that objectives and key results are actually an extremely valuable tool for UX designers and the folks that we work with to ensure that the customer is front and center in all our conversations. Let's start here. A fundamental concept for our business today is that you're in the software business. Now, all of you are digital designers. This is probably nothing that you don't already believe. But if you think about the businesses that you work in today, do they believe that they're in the software business? If you work for a bank, does the bank believe it's in the software business? If you work for a healthcare company, do they believe that they're in the software business? The reality is that they are. The only way to build a business of scale, the only way to compete nationally and globally is to build software and to build our businesses on top of software. If you've been to a McDonald's recently, you don't talk to people anymore at McDonald's. You use technology. Software drives that technology to place your order. Right? McDonald's, you think, is in the food business. They're actually a technology company. They're a technology company that sells food. That's how they grow. That's how they scale. That's how they optimize. And that's how they become more efficient. Now, what's fascinating is that the nature of the software, the nature of the technology that drives our businesses has fundamentally changed in the last 10 years, 15 years, maybe. When I started working professionally, software came in a box. You went to the store and you bought a box of software. Right? That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Right? You don't go to the store and buy a box of TikTok. Right? That's not how the internet works today. It's not how technology and software works today. The nature of technology has fundamentally shifted. When I started working professionally, software was static. It ended. There was a point in time where we actually stopped working on the technology. And when that happened, we had a party. And we got a t-shirt with the name of the project on it. It was amazing because you worked on it for 9 months or 12 months or 18 months. But software today is continuous. Right? You don't go to the store and buy a box of software. The software that we work on today are continuous systems that evolve continuously over time. There is no end to the software that we work on. We're building our businesses on top of this reality. And what's fascinating is that companies, and those traditional companies that I mentioned before, financial services, insurance, healthcare, they get it. They're starting to get it. I love this quote. This is a quote from, as you can see, Francisco Gonzalez, the executive chairman of BBVA, the Spanish bank. The part in orange is the most important part. That's why it's in orange, right? What he says, look, we are competing in a race that has no finish line. He gets it. We're building these continuous systems that never end. Right? If these systems never end, if we can work on it forever, think about this for a second. Here's an example to make this clear, right? When is Amazon done? Sounds ridiculous, right? When is Google done? Right? Google thought they were done, right? And then ChatGPT came along and they're like, oh shit, we gotta go fix the search, right? These systems never end. If they never end, there's no finish line. And if there's no finish line, then there's no predetermined route about how to get there, right? This idea of a roadmap. We're going to build these 10 things and then we'll be done. what we have to start to pay attention for is what emerges from the use of the systems that we're building. And based on what we observe emerging from the systems that we build, that impacts what we do next. Right? There is no predetermined route. The route emerges through the use of our systems. And this is getting incredibly more interesting and incredibly more powerful and challenging to deal with. In 2015, my co-author and business partner and friend, Josh Seiden, and I wrote our second book together. We were doing research for our second book. The book is called Sense and Respond. And we learned in 2015 that Amazon pushed code to production. In other words, they put features in the hands of real customers every 11.6 seconds. 5 times a minute. Some Amazon customer somewhere in the world got a new feature or a change in the system in 2015. Fast forward 8 years. And today it's every second. Every second, Amazon puts live code in production. Right? That's the extreme end of things, but I want you to understand what's possible. Right? This idea of continuous system means that 60 times a minute, we can optimize and improve the system if we want to. Right? Once a second, once a minute, whatever. But the idea here, the implication here is that the deployment of features, the thing that we had a party for, the thing that we got a t-shirt for 20 years ago, is a non-event, right, anymore. If we can deploy a feature every second, then the deployment of a feature is a non-event. It's just the course of doing business on a daily basis. And so this idea of continuing to celebrate it as the measure of success and the definition of done doesn't make sense anymore. If we continue to do that, if we continue to celebrate the deployment of features, we build products that look like this. Right? This is the Microsoft Word version of a guitar. Right? All I want to do is play guitar, and all this other stuff gets in the way, right? This is what our products look like when we celebrate the deployment of features, when we incentivize output in a continuous reality that where this doesn't make sense anymore, right? This idea that we can operate as a software factory doesn't make sense anymore. In fact, this idea that delivering more code means delivering more value is no longer true. There are only 2 things that delivering more code guarantees. The first is more code. The second is technical debt. That's it. Those are the only 2 things that you're guaranteed because you have to live with this code forever because the systems never end. Right? We have to work on this stuff forever. And so what we used to measure as success has to actually change. We have to change our measure of success. That's the first point, okay? Let's go to the second point. Here's the second point. Okay, first point, continuous world. Everything's changing really fast, okay? We can't predict what we're going to build. The delivery of features is not a measure of success. Second point, everybody has a customer. All of you go to work. All of you make something. Some human somewhere else inside the organization or outside the organization consumes that thing. There's a human somewhere that consumes the thing that you make. That is your customer. Now, that could be the people who pay you money, who buy your product. Those could be the developers that you work with, or the product managers that you work with, or your clients, right? Who consumes the things that we make? And when we build these 2 things together, and we combine these ideas of continuous everything and this idea that all of us make something for other humans, we have to start to redefine success, Right? Defining success in a new way is critical to all of this. And the definition that we're looking for is outcomes. Okay? Moving away from the deployment of features, what we call output, and towards outcomes. Outcomes are measurable changes in human behavior. This is how we start to know whether or not we've delivered any value. Because we can build anything, and we can build it fast, and we can put it out there very, very quickly. That is no longer a definition of value. The definition of value is, have we positively impacted the behavior of our customers? That's how we know we've delivered value. There's another benefit here. The other benefit is this. Outcomes tell us when we're done. It used to be that we were done when we finished building all the features that were in the specifications document. And when I worked at America Online and we sent those CDs to France, you're very welcome. We were done when we printed 15 million copies of the CD and we put them in the mail to France, right? With continuous systems, when you can work on something forever, when are you done? Right? You're done when you've changed behavior enough. We get to decide what enough means, but that's our new definition of done. It's outcomes. And so as we bring all this stuff together, it starts to require us to develop a new way of setting goals and measuring success. And this is where this idea of objectives and key results comes in. This is not a new idea. This has been around for 40 years at least. It became very popular because Google started using it, but it makes a ton of sense in a world where everything is continuous and everyone has a customer. This is the definition of OKRs that I have written for you today, right? It's a goal-setting framework. It's a team-based goal-setting framework. It's for teams. And it's got two parts. A qualitative goal, which is the objective. It tells us why we're working on something. And then a quantitative measurement that tells us that we've achieved the goal, right? Have we changed behavior rather than have we delivered a feature or put something into the hands of customers? And so what I want to do is I want to take both sides of this conversation, objectives and key results, and I want to go through each one. And I have an example. We'll carry through the example to illustrate the idea. And then we'll put it all together, and we'll talk about why this is hard to do or easy to do. Let's start first. How to write a good objective. You need your cat. That's my cat. He's awesome. I love my cat. It's old. Objectives. These are our goals. Now, if you work at a high level in your organization, then these could be strategic. But if you work on a product team or a feature team, then these are going to be tactical. Our objectives are qualitative. They're aspirational. They are inspirational. This is why we get out of bed every day and go to work. Why are we working on this? We want to become the best, the easiest, the simplest, the definitive source for something. Right? This is why we get out of bed. It should be concrete, it should provide obvious value, and it should be time-boxed. In other words, we want to know when we think we're going to achieve the objective. The way that we start to define our objectives is we start with the problem that we are trying to solve. What's the most important problem that we have to solve in the next cycle? And I say cycle because we could say quarter if that's easier, right? What's the most important thing we have to solve in the next quarter or two? Why is it a problem? What do we know about the root cause of this issue? Right? We start with the problem that we're trying to solve. Now, I have an example that we're going to carry through. This is my example, completely hypothetical example, okay? I run an education learning platform for lawyers. And I've noticed that customers sign up for the service, they take one course, and they leave the platform. And when they leave, they tell me that the user experience was the reason that they left. Why is this a problem? Because it drives up my customer acquisition costs, it drives up my sales costs, and it reduces my profit. Okay? This is the problem that's most important to me to solve in the next cycle. So we're going to take that problem, okay, and we're going to ask this question. If you solve the problem, right, what does that look like? Notice I said if you solve the problem, not how will you solve the problem. If you turn that problem into a positive statement, what does that look like? Well, in this particular case, if I take this problem statement, this one here, and I turn it into a positive statement, it looks like this. Build an effective and engaging continuing education learning product for the entirety of a lawyer's career to ensure their skills are current by the end of the year. Now think about that list I just showed you. Qualitative, effective and engaging, those are qualitative words. Aspirational and inspirational. This is why we get out of bed every day, to build this service. Provide clear value and put a time limit on it by the end of the year. What I've done here is I've written my first objective statement. I've taken a problem that I care about and I've turned it into a positive statement. Okay? So I've written the objective. It's super important that we set our objectives in a way that our teams can achieve. So as I mentioned before, if you work in a strategic role, if you work in a leadership role, if you're in charge of an entire product or a business unit or a department, the goals of that business unit can be your objective. But if you work on a team that's in charge of just one slice of the customer journey, authentication, for example, checkout, whatever it is, right, the product page, then your objectives should reflect the part of the system that you can influence. If you set goals for, if you're on the team that's in charge of authentication and you set your goals for revenue, you're setting yourself up to fail, right? We want to set goals, objectives, within the frame within a frame of reference that we can influence, okay? So this is how we write our objectives. Let's talk about key results. You still need your cat to write good key results. He's still there. He's always there, my cat. Let's talk about key results. Key results answer the question, how will we know we have achieved the objective? This is the quantifiable side of the conversation. To be very, very clear, metrics. We want metrics here. Your key results need to be metrics. Ideally, they are ratios or rates, percentages, which tells us how we're trending. 25% more, 30% less. We want our metrics, our key results to be aggressive. If you hit your key results every quarter, you're not trying hard enough. Your key results should be verifiable with evidence. We should look at reports, analytics, usage metrics, customer data, market research, whatever it is, to tell us that we have indeed achieved those key results. And most importantly, and to bring this all together from the beginning of the conversation, it's so important that I put a red line underneath it. That's how important it is. Your key results must be outcomes. Your key results must be measurable changes in human behavior. If you remember nothing from this presentation today, remember that part, because this is the point in this framework that makes or breaks it, right? The key results must be outcomes, measures of human behavior. How do we know we've achieved the goal? We've seen people change their behavior. Let me illustrate this for you. Let me show you what I mean, okay? First of all, right, you're UX folks, right? First thing we have to ask is, whose behavior are we going to change? Who's the user? Good question, right? Could be anybody, current customers, prospective customers, users, colleagues, designers, leadership teams. Could be any of these folks. That's the first conversation. Whose behavior do we want to change? And then we ask the key question, okay? What will those people be doing differently if we achieve the objective? In other words, how will their behavior change, right? For example, for my online learning platform for lawyers, I want to see 50% decrease in the number of existing customers leaving the service due to its user experience. Right? That's the change in behavior that tells me that I'm building an engaging platform for the entirety of a lawyer's career. It's very important. And I want to be clear about the level for our key results. There's 3 terms that I think are important to define. We've talked about 2 of them. We're going to talk about all 3 together. There's a concept of impact metrics. Impact metrics are the high-level measures of the health of your business. These are the metrics that your CEO looks at every day. Sales, revenue, profit, customer satisfaction. There's outcomes. Outcomes are the behaviors that people do in our products, in our services, in our systems on a daily basis. Output is the stuff that we make. It's the stuff that we hope will achieve the outcome, right? The features, the services, the initiatives, the campaigns, the marketing, the advertising that we hope will change behavior. Our key results need to focus at this level, okay? We want to focus our key results at the outcome level. Let me give you a quick example. I'm going to run this example. I'm going to see if you guys can participate a little bit. We'll see how it goes. Let's imagine for just a minute here that all of us are no longer UX designers or product people, whatever it is that you do. All of us are now the owners of a mattress store. Congratulations, right? This is your mattress store, okay? If you're the CEO, if you're the owner of the mattress store, what are your impact metrics? What are the high-level measures of the health of your business? Call it out. What are you looking at every day? Sales. I heard sales. What else? Say? Money. Exactly. Sales, revenue, profit margin, right? That kind of stuff, right? Amazing. Now, let me ask you another question. What behavior can you observe in your store that might lead to sales? What are people doing in your store that might lead to sales? Call it out. What do people do? Oh, I heard something over here. Say it again. Try out. Right. So we try a mattress. We lie down on a mattress. Very good. What else? Talking to the salespeople. Absolutely. What else? Asking information about the product. How much time they've spent on the mattress. Say it again. Coming to the store. Right, just show up at the store. That's an amazing first part of the customer journey. Let's get them there. That's exactly right. And by the way, for those of you who sleep next to somebody, come to the store with that somebody. Right? It's very important that your partner is with you when you do that stuff. Ask about taking away the old mattress, etc. Right? All those things. Okay, last question. What could you do to your store to encourage that behavior? Right? What would you do to the store to drive people coming, lying on mattresses, bringing their partners? What could you do? Okay, say that again. Bigger signs. Yeah, huge signage. Right, very good. What else? Yeah, so having a diverse inventory of products. Okay, good. What else? Say it again. Advertising. Very good. Lights in the store. Yeah, make it like I want to lie down on the store. By the way, there are clues in the photo. Information if you come with? Yeah, bring your partner and we'll give you information. Look, if you want people to lie on your mattress and they're wearing shoes from outside, right, we're going to put covers on the mattresses so people feel comfortable doing that, okay? Everything we just talked about, those are the features of your store. right? That's the output. Big signs, advertising, information, large inventory, smart salespeople, low prices, good lighting, right? All of those things. We do all of those things because we're trying to encourage a behavior change, right? An outcome. Lie down on a mattress. Come to the store with your partner. Ask about the mattress, right? Because that, we believe, leads to sales. If big signs, advertising, low prices, diverse inventory, all of those things, if those things don't lead to the behavior change that we're looking for, then they didn't work. And we have to try something else. The measure of success is not big signage. The measure of success is, did someone lie on a mattress? Because when they lie on a mattress, they tend to buy the mattress. That's the key difference here. The difference here is that the measure of success is not the feature or the product. In fact, the product is the variable in all of this. This is where this gets a little weird. This is kind of a radical idea, right? I've been building software products for a long time. The product has never been the variable, right? When we have an idea, when we set out to build something, we're always going to build it. I can't recall a single time in my entire career where we didn't build it, right? We may have changed scope, we may have changed the design, but we always shipped it. When we set goals with objectives and key results, when we focus on human behavior as the measure of success, that part is fixed. And it's the product and the design that is the variable. Because there is an infinite combination of code, copy, design, value proposition, business model that you can put together to try to influence behavior. Which one is right? Which one is the best one? You don't know. Right? The measure of success is, did we change behavior? And we have to learn, and we have to figure, and we put that together. Let me show you examples of some good OKRs to bring this home. Right? So here's an example. Become the #1 seller of mattresses in the Metro Barcelona area. That's where I live. I want to be the biggest mattress seller there. By the end of the year, how do I know? I see a 150% increase in people coming to my store. I see a 50% increase in online to offline conversions. And a third of my foot traffic comes in with their partner. To me, that's a good sign. Okay, that's one example. Let me show you another example. This is for our online learning platform. Build an effective and engaging continuing education learning product for the lawyers. How do I know I've done that? What will people be doing differently? Each user will take at least 3 courses each year. 25% of my new customers will come from word of mouth, referrals, and each law firm that signs up registers at least 50% of the staff. Right? Those are the behavior changes that tell me that I'm building an effective and engaging learning platform for lawyers. That's what makes sense for me. Let me show you one more example. This is from the real world, and this is from healthcare. This isn't digital. It's nothing of the sort. This is from the Cleveland Clinic. The Cleveland Clinic is a high-end global healthcare institution headquartered, perhaps not surprisingly, in Cleveland, Ohio. That's where it is. It's in America. Not a great place. Check it out. They publish their OKRs online every year. This is the CEO's OKRs. And there's lots of good stuff on here, but I'm going to call out 2 very important ones. Look at this one here. Best place to receive care anywhere. Qualitative, aspirational, inspirational. Yeah, who doesn't want to wake up every day and do that? Right? If that's your business. And it's time boxed because these are the 2020 OKRs. How do we know? What's the behavior change that tells us that we are the best place to receive care anywhere? The number of safety events, the absolute number of safety events declines. That's important. And the ratio of serious safety events declines. That's how we know it's the best place to get care anywhere. Here's another example from here that I really like. I like this one in the middle. It's because this OKR is internally facing. And this one says, best place to work in healthcare. Right? So we're going to focus the goal inside. How do we know that we're the best place to work in healthcare? Well, the number of people, the percentage of our staff that would recommend us goes up, and the percentage of people who leave, regrettable turnover means people quit voluntarily. People we didn't want to quit, leave the company. We want to see that number go down. Right? The behavior here is not of customers or patients in this case, but it's of the staff, doctors, nurses, right? The people who work in the hospitals, etc. Nowhere here does it say how we're going to do that. We're looking for the behavior change that tells us that we did that. Okay? So that's what OKRs are. Now, the interesting thing is that writing the OKRs is half the battle. Right? Getting a decent OKR written is hard, but it's not impossible. The interesting thing, and this is where your expertise really starts to shine, okay? Because as you saw in the OKRs that I've shown you, we don't talk about what we're going to build. Right? There's nothing in there about how we're going to achieve these goals. There's nothing about solutions at all. And so what we need to do is we need to start to build in a culture of product discovery. Right? This idea of getting out there and understanding our customers, understanding why they behave a certain way today, and what's getting in their way of changing that behavior in a positive way for them. Right? This is a great quote from Jeff Bezos where he talks about how we need to be good at understanding how our customers behave today. We need to be good at making decisions on moving forward quickly, putting small ideas, unfinished ideas into the market to see what impact they have on customer behavior. And then we need to be really good at recognizing the impact on behavior and then correcting our course based on what we're learning. That is agility, and that is product discovery. That's what we're looking for. Teresa Torres wrote about this in her book. She said product discovery is a process to discover user problems, market opportunities, and products that address them. That is our goal. Now, if you've been designing for a long time, you've seen this diagram, probably. Right? This diagram has been around a long time, the double diamond. Right? And this is a good diagram. The problem with this diagram is that the way that it's been taught to designers for 20 years is that this is a one-time activity. This idea of discovering, defining the problem, and then solving it. But as I told you at the beginning, we live in a continuous world. And so the conversation that we want to have with our customers, the thing that you are particularly good at, is a continuous one. To ship ideas into market, to sense how we're impacting customer behavior, and then to respond to what we're learning. How do we think we're going to change behavior? Those are our assumptions, and then we're going to test them. And then based on what we're learning, we are going to adjust our plans. Right? Because the product is the variable, the behavior change is the goal. And the faster that we can get through this loop, the faster that we can answer these questions, the faster that we can learn whether or not our ideas are good or bad or otherwise, right? The faster we can course correct. The faster we can learn if we're right or wrong, the less we invest in an idea. The less we invest in the idea, the easier it is to change course. Because again, the variable is the product, not the human behavior, not the metric. Okay? Now, super interesting. How do we find out whether or not our ideas actually change behavior? Now, there's this concept of MVP. We're not going to talk about that because we don't have enough time to go through the various definitions. But we do have this concept of experiments. Now, the way that MVP, or minimum viable product, was presented in the Lean Startup by Eric Ries was this. Okay? What is the smallest thing that we can make or do to test our hypothesis? We want to change behavior. We have a hypothesis about how to do that. What is the fastest, easiest, cheapest way for us to learn whether or not we can do that? We can make that behavior change happen. In the lean startup, that was called an MVP. Today, we're just going to call that an experiment. We're going to run a list of experiments. And as we think about what we're trying to achieve in our experiments, we ask these two questions. What do we need to learn first? Right? What do we know about our mattress customers today? Why do they come to the store? When do they come to the store? Why do they come alone? Why do they come with their partners? Right? What do we need to learn first? And then what's the least amount of work we need to do to learn that? Maybe it's just talking to customers. Maybe it's building a paper prototype. Maybe it's sending a survey. Maybe it's doing an A/B test. Right? These are all the things that we can do as designers, and there's an infinite number of things. These are just 4 examples of things that we can do to understand a situation and then solve for it. Look, here's a situation. This is a crazy situation. Look at it, right? Let's say your job was to solve for this, right? First of all, you have to understand what the hell these people are doing, right? What? Who thought this was a good idea, right? But this is what we're good at. This is what starts to, once we've got our behavior changes written, we can understand, right? Are there unmet needs here? Yes, there are, right? We learn through observation. You know how to do this. We learn through interview by talking to these folks to understand what they were trying to do, and then we solve for their needs through experimentation. And then we figure out how to improve this situation so that we see a reduction in this behavior, yeah? That's our goal, right, in this particular case, is to reduce this from happening, right? Reduce the number of people who die by electrocution in their pool as well, right? I love this example, right? This is from Rotterdam in the Netherlands, where they ride bicycles a lot, right? What they want to do is they want to encourage people to ride bicycles, and they want to promote that by putting bicycle racks in the right places in the city. But building a rack is expensive, and it's permanent, concrete and steel. Instead, they put a bicycle rack on wheels, and they move it around the city, and then they wait to see what happens. And if the behavior changes, if people start to lock their bikes to this mobile bike rack, they make it permanent. But if people don't lock their bikes over here, they move it somewhere else. The product is the variable. The behavior change is the goal in all of this, okay? All right. Let's talk about what makes this hard, and then let's talk about why we should do it, and then we'll wrap this up. What makes this hard? There's a few things that make this hard. Let's start at the top. A lot of organizations will push down goals on the entire organization. They'll start at the top, and they'll say, here are the organizational goals, this is your goal, and they'll give it to everybody else. Successful OKRs are both a top-down and a bottom-up process. Leaders set strategic goals. Teams set their own goals, we meet in the middle, and we discuss and we approve. People are far more motivated to achieve goals that they set for themselves than goals you set for them. Let people set their own goals, okay? I mentioned this before. This is the most important part of this whole presentation. If your key result is an output, it's a feature, it's a thing, the OKRs lose efficacy, right? As I mentioned before, shipping features is an infinite process. The only way to know that we've shipped enough features and that we've designed and implemented them well is when our users change their behavior, right? If our key results end up being features or output, we've changed nothing except the name of the system, right? It's the same thing. Build me this thing by Friday. We've changed nothing. Your key results must be outcomes, measures of human behavior. If we get to the point where our teams have written excellent OKR statements, but they don't have a system for ideation, a system for collecting evidence, and a system for decision-making, they won't know what to do. And so it's our jobs to educate our colleagues in things like design thinking, in lean UX, in experimentation, in research, in prototyping, in an effort to understand our customers and to come up with better solutions for changing their behavior. And then finally, one of the things that we have to think about is what are we being rewarded to do? Right? Today, the overwhelming majority of the companies that I work with reward production. Did you make the thing? Yeah, there it is. I made it. Terrific. You get to keep your job, or a raise, or a bonus. Right? If we don't change the incentives around this, people will do what gets them paid. So we might set really excellent objectives and key results, but if the incentive is to ship the thing, I will ship the thing because that means I get to keep my job. We have to think about our incentive systems. And so finally, why should we go through all this? Why should we change our goals? Why should we push to continue to change our organizations? And it's this. There's lots of benefits. These are the top three, okay? If we set our goals with objectives and key results, we are explicitly demanding that our teams do discovery work, that they go out, they talk to customers, they understand the market. In doing so, we are building a culture of empathy. We're bringing the teams closer to the customer, and that's never a bad thing. And if we understand our customer, and if we have behavior change as a goal, then we are increasing the agility of our organization. Because if we start working on something and we notice that that thing isn't changing human behavior in the way that we expected, we now have the evidence to justify adjusting course. And changing course based on evidence is the definition of agility. And that's why I think we should work on OKRs and push this forward, because I do believe it's going to bring us a lot closer to the customer and help us really drive the kind of solutions that we're looking for in the world. So thank you very much for listening. We're doing questions? Yeah? We're doing questions. Okay.
Questions?
Questions in English, please. Or Spanish. I could do it in Spanish as well. Oh, there we got a translator. Yeah, thank you. Are there questions? Oh, yeah, I see a hand. Excellent. I see that, yeah.
Thank you very much for your conference. The first time, or the only time I experienced OKRs was very painful because it felt like a lot of extra work for the team. It felt like we had to invent goals, but which were already kind of set by the management. The strategic goals were. And it felt like a lot like of surveillance and control from the management. So my question is, what are your recommendations regarding the integration of OKRs in the existing reporting obligations that designers have? For example, should it replace existing KPIs? Should it be a framework of the other indicators? What are your suggestions?
Yeah, so I have two suggestions to answer for that. So first is OKRs, as I mentioned at the beginning, are a team-based framework. So we want to make sure that the goal is set for a team. Now, ideally, that team is cross-functional, right? So we can certainly have a design department OKRs, right? But when we're talking about building products, we want to set OKRs at the product team level. So product, design, engineering together have the same goal. To me, that's really important because now we don't have engineering with a set of goals, product with a set of goals, design with a set of goals. Everybody's got the same goal. They win or lose together. That's the first thing. The second thing that I would recommend is that you start small. Do this with one team. Right? Pick the team, and honestly, pick the team that is most likely to succeed. There's no reason not to, right? And give them, have them set a set of OKRs, and then give them a block of time to try this out. 8 weeks, maybe 12 weeks, a quarter at most. And let them be transparent about their process. Let them figure this out. Let them kind of bump up against the organizational challenges that they come up against and see what they learn. And assuming that they do a decent job and that they're productive and they're doing well, take their learnings and scale it up to 2 teams and then do another quarter. Right? And then scale it up to 5 and then 10 and then 50 or however many you have. The point is that we're reducing the risk. Right? Anytime we introduce new goals, you start peeling the onion on this idea, and it impacts the entire organization. Right? Incentives, job descriptions, who we hire, who we fire, all that kind of stuff. Right? And that's scary for any organization. So by starting small, we start to kind of we start to see all the pain points with this, and we get some learnings. And then we're going to scale it to 2, right? And then learn, okay, what's it like at 2 teams? And now, what is it like at 5 teams? So to me, that's kind of, you're experimenting your way to an OKR process that works in your organization. But cross-functional teams, to me, is the foundation of that. I think without that, it doesn't really work. Okay. I don't know if there's more. Are there more?
Any question?
Yeah, there's 2 here in the front. Right there. Right there.
Thank you for your presentation. This is the first time I hear about OKRs, but I guess the objective you can never really reach because it's inspirational, aspirational. But how do you know when you have to change your key results to meet the objectives?
It's a great question. It's a great question, right? So yeah, so the objective is qualitative. How do you know you're engaging or effective or simple, right? The numbers help us get there. And what's interesting about this is that we are going to set key results that make sense right now, based on what we know right now. And we are going to work towards those key results for a quarter. And at the end of the quarter, we are going to meet with our stakeholders. And they're going to say, how are you trending? Let's say our key result is increase retention by 50%. And they'll say, how are you doing? And we'll say, we've increased retention by 21%. Here's what we've shipped. Here's what we've learned. And here's what we plan on doing in the next quarter. And they might say, okay, you're doing great work. Keep going. So we work for another quarter. And then we meet again with our stakeholders. And they say, how you doing? And they say, well, we've increased retention by 41%. The goal is 50. Okay, here's what we've shipped, here's what we've learned, and if we keep going, right, this is what we'll do in the next quarter. Now, what you've done is you've provided data, facts to your stakeholders, and they might look and say, you know what, 41% is good enough. Right? We could have you work for another quarter and maybe try to squeeze another 9% out of this, but we have more important priorities because ChatGPT just came out, right? And so we're going to move. So what we're doing is we're reducing the cycle time, and we're making evidence-based decisions based on what we've learned along the way, right? Now look, you may come back at the end of that first quarter and say, we did it, 50%, done. What do you want to do next? And that's great. Right? Maybe the goal was too low, whatever it is. But the point is that we're working in short cycles, and we're reassessing at the end of that short cycle based on what's happening now, rather than what was happening 3 months ago. Right? That's the key in all of this. My pleasure. Okay, there's one more, yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. How do you find the right OKRs in order to avoid teams taking shortcuts and maybe doing like dark patterns design?
Doing, what was that?
Dark pattern designs.
Yeah, yes, dark product. So look, I mean, it's a really great question, right? Really, there's a couple things here. We didn't talk a lot about like separating OKRs from incentives. That's actually really important. Like, we don't want to tie promotions and bonuses to key results because stuff like that. Like, I don't know if you paid attention, but a couple of years ago there was a big scandal at the American bank Wells Fargo. They had a key result. Their key result was open up new bank accounts, and they incentivized that. They paid people bonuses for doing that. So people opened up bank accounts for their dead grandmother, and like 3 accounts for their dog, you know, and stuff like that. And people did that, and it was a massive scandal because the incentive was tied to the key result. So that's the first thing we want to do, is we want to separate those two things, right? We want to tie incentives to how people behave at work and how they're working and what they're doing, but the key results are going to be separate from that. That's actually really, really important. I think the other part of this is kind of paying, like, someone has to pay attention to this, right? And I don't know, like, is it a design leader? Is it a product manager? Is it a founder or a CPO? I don't know, right? But to your point, I used to work at a company that was a subscription service, and you know, one of our key results was people resubscribing every month, and the CEO told us to bury the unsubscribe functionality. Right? It was like 10 levels deep in a menu somewhere, right? That's a dark pattern, right? Somebody had to raise their hand and say, look, that's not cool, right? We should be retaining customers because we're delivering value, not because we've made it impossible to unsubscribe, right? And so somebody's got to raise their hand in that situation. Designers, product managers, leaders, et cetera. But we need to keep an eye out for that. I think beyond that, you know, I don't have a better answer than that. That's the best answer I have.
There was a question behind. So another one here.
Okay, there's one here. Yeah.
Thank you for the conference. I know everybody's talking a lot about product and OKRs and everything, and I kind of have the sense that you were talking a lot about the users. And in this special conjuncture these days, in economical situation in the world right now, with the inflation that is going on, we need to kind of focus on the users. And the users want to have a product, but sometimes they do not have the economical way to have the product.
Yeah.
So do you take that in consideration into your OKRs?
I think it's interesting, right? So I think this is a product strategy question.
This is continuous.
Right. But I think this is a strategic question rather than an OKR question. Right? You can't have OKRs without strategy. I mean, you can, but they're going to be all over the place. You can't have cohesive OKRs without strategy. And I think as an organization, you have to ask yourselves strategically, how are we going to, like, what's our strategy in this economic market, that situation that's right now? Do we want to provide an economical version of the product? Right? Or do we want to be the most expensive product on the market or the cheapest market? Like, what's our strategy? I think that's a key component of that. I think if we choose to provide services in an economical fashion or a low price tier, right, then we have objectives and key results that reflect that. But the fundamental question is, strategically, who are we as a company, right? Are we the company that provides services for everybody? Or are we the most expensive or the least expensive or whatever, right? But I think it's a strategy question more than an OKR question. Yeah. A great question, right, to be fair. Right.
Et merci, c'était notre dernière question. Merci à vous.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, wait. Can we do this? Can we do one of these really quick? Like a big old... My daughter told me that we have to do these 0.5 selfies. All right? Okay, I hope I got it. Thanks. See you later.